guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today in the Ask SSM video series, got an email from a subscriber. This guy is in his early 70s. He's an expat living over in Thailand. He is now remarried to a Thai gal, much younger than him, living the life. And he's writing in about his son from his first marriage, who's now 32, and made the colossal boneheaded mistake of rushing into a marriage. And our guy here is desperately trying to find good advice to help his son out. You see, his son got involved with a gal who was over here in a student visa or work visa or something like that. She's from India. And long story short, obviously to prevent her from leaving, thought it was a genius idea to rush into a marriage with her. He doesn't know her that well. And to no surprise, it is as clear as day, she is using him and milking him for everything it's worth. Not just her, but also her family. And this guy here wasn't consulted about this. The son just went ahead and did it anyway, which I believe his son knew darn well what he would say otherwise. So anyhow, he's writing in looking for advice as how best to handle this situation. What could he possibly do to help him out, knock some sense in him, all that type of thing. Because he is aware his son's 32. He's not like he's, 18. And he's already married, but just looking for some options here. And let me tell you guys, this really should be a required video. All you fathers out there or grandfathers or uncles that have, nephews or grandsons or sons, have them watch this. Because they need to be aware that there are gals out there that come here on a work visa or come here illegally and they're going to try to rope in some sucker and this type of thing can happen. So it starts off, says here, Dear SSM, I'm an expat in my early 70s living in Thailand. I'm a longtime subscriber to your channel and follow your 2 new ones. Your advice to men is priceless. Thank you for helping all the guys around the world. My pleasure, brother, and I appreciate you watching the channels. This email is regarding my son. Let us call him Mike. He's 32 years old and attending a top university with a full scholarship, including tuition, books, and a nice monthly living allowance. He's doing well after some early lack of focus, now suddenly married. Now suddenly screwed. I'm obviously concerned because I made a fantastic career and lifestyle choices throughout my life. But my only one mistake was getting married in the West. It destroyed everything I'd built for 50 years. Now I've recovered an awesome life, but that's another story. So I'm hoping to help out my son, but I'm confused about how. I'm hoping that the community can give me advice. Well, sir, I can promise you one thing. The community here will always speak their mind. And I encourage all you guys to get your typing hands ready, because this guy needs help. Well, he had a slow start to his career, but now he's at a top university, student in computer science, and extremely successful in his internship jobs. Well, I hope he's focusing on AI. He's above average looks and was in excellent shape and good personality. However, he's not tall and not settled in a career until he graduates in a year. So women have not flocked to him. He's not a Chad. He's not rich. I used to see him as a pretty stubborn and not easily influenced young man. But I've known incredibly successful men who collapsed into simphood when they met an appealing woman. Well, that's most men. And how many unbelievably successful men out there in various things, sports, music, business, who kick ass in their field, and then you see their track record with women, or celebrities, movie stars, whatever you want to call them. It's all that goes right out the door. I have to include myself in this sad group, as us boomers had no internet warnings or advice. Now I'm totally R-pilled and have advised my son to make himself knowledgeable. Looks like I failed. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink it. Your son most certainly didn't get the message. Well, a couple years ago, he sent me photos of his girlfriend. She was a pretty girl with Indian heritage. No problem. They were into hiking and healthy outdoor stuff. And I was happy to see this. Maybe a year thereafter, he'd broken up with her and sent me another photo of his newest girlfriend. Again, Indian heritage, which was definitely okay, as I know they tend to be more traditional in relationship values. Okay, your son clearly has a type. So the new chick, who's now his wife, he's known for like a year. Just a few months later, he announced they were going to be married. Smack! Bonehead. Why, bonehead? Well, you're going to see. This is the first red flag because it's way too soon to choose a wife, and he isn't even fully employed yet. Yeah, smack. and deserves another smack. Gee, I wonder why. Let me guess, love will find a way. He's on the other side of the globe from me and has his mother and sister and friends to consult with. They all seem to be in favor. Yeah, of course, he's consulting his mother and sister and probably his simp-ass friends that don't know any better. Mom and sister want a wedding. She gets to be probably one of the bridesmaids, maybe. Mom wants grandchildren. And the friends probably, you get the point. So I assumed she was nice and they would have a long engagement. Wrong. The next announcement I got was that the wedding was going to be in India this past Christmas Day in 2024. This is crazy fast, and I wanted to know why. Okay, so it is mid-September 2025, so all this shit started last year. Then I heard that she was staying with a student visa that was going to expire and send her back to India. Huge red flag with a siren attached. You're darn right about that. There you go. This is why they're rushing things. Now, obviously, your son is a type he likes Indian chicks. Still, and there's some darn pretty ones out there. But come on here. Her expiring visa? Duh. But he wasn't consulting me, just raging ahead. Plane tickets booked and a plan to land in Bangkok and then go to and from India. A promise to see me for a nice visit before and after the ceremony. So I'm going to say this now. I'm not 100% certain, but I'm pretty darn certain, pretty sure of this. The reason your son ever consulted you, asked for your advice, any of this stuff, is because, in my opinion, he knew darn well you would tell him this is the dumbest idea on the face of the earth. Okay, there have been dumber ideas out there, but this is very stupid. He knew darn well what you would say. But because he knew you'd say that, he didn't listen. He didn't consult you at all. And I might add, your son is 32. He's not a kid at all. If he was 22 and pulling this crap, I would still smack him, but I would still say he's very young and dumb. But 32? No. Well, the fiancé, let's call her Maya, has a low-paying job, but university educated. And Mike has student loans that were not needed and being invested wisely. So I offered half the airfare to include the flights needed to see me. Hold on. Didn't you say he had a full ride to this school? But now he's taking student loans probably to pay for other shit, probably her additional things. The next red flag was that they were not even going to wait for the India wedding and suddenly had a civil ceremony in his apartment with a few guests. Smack! Rushing it along to make sure she doesn't get booed out of the country. This was to accommodate a quick application for a permanent residence permit based on marriage and him as the financial sponsor. Smack! I hope he's aware what that means. That he's responsible for her for a while. Unless, of course, you can get through to him and he gets a good attorney, but we'll come back to that later. He legally married the next weekend. I wasn't invited or consulted. That's all on purpose. Absolutely on purpose. He knew what you'd say. And you know what? I bet you deep down, he knows what he's doing is a mistake. But he's not listening. He's listening not to the object between his ears, but to the one down there. So SSM, my first question was, if I tried to intervene, would I have had the higher chances of success or chances of that being cut off from contact? My boomer peers were not into any attempts to interfere with a man's decision to marry and his choice of a wife. So I stayed quiet about my concerns. Well, I think you should have said something. You shouldn't have listened to your friends, because remember something here. Most people are not happy in their lives for lots of reasons, so why consult the masses? You know? Your son is a grown-ass man. He's 32. He's behaving like an idiot, but he is a grown-ass man. And yeah, he's allowed to choose, but you're allowed to have a say in it if he's rushing into it, making a terrible mistake. You know? It would have been different if he'd known her for a number of years. And he was sincerely going to spend a good amount of time engaged to her. And there wasn't this visa crap. But this sudden rushing into things, you had a right to say something. But what's done is done. But there's more to come. First, their plan to see me before Christmas was canceled, and they stayed one night in Bangkok and flew to India. Oh, that's very considerate of him, considering this is his new wife and your daughter-in-law, and will be the mother of grandchildren if they stay together. One night is all you get. He wasn't allowed to stay in the same hotel room as his new wife because the family didn't recognize the civil ceremony. Hold on. He came to visit in Bangkok, but they weren't allowed to stay in the same fucking hotel room? This moron fell for that? Because it wasn't recognized because it was a civil ceremony or not in India? At the very least, he should be getting laid for this whole thing. So he's being controlled by her family, and he's not even in the same fucking country? They paid him and my family no dowry, claiming the wedding in India was enough. Can anybody confirm this? I don't want money, but is this proper? Just wondering. Okay, anybody out there know about the dowries and shit with India? Let this guy know. My lovely young Thai wife and myself were looking forward to meeting Maya and Mike for the New Year's Eve. Really? Were you that really looking forward to meeting her? The second he got to the airport, she just smacked him inside the head, said, SSM sent you. But they stayed in India and decided to come a little later. Then the big surprise that her parents and sister were coming on their honeymoon to Thailand. What? Now, maybe this is some cultural thing that I'm not aware of. So any Indian guys out there, I know there's some of you, chime in here. So sometimes the family come along for things like this, maybe to meet him. I don't know. But that seems fucking weird. Well, I plan on picking up the tab for most expenses, but an extra 3 people would be difficult to manage in sightseeing, etc. I'm on a fixed, reduced pension and having to support my ex for life. The family and newlyweds arrived, and I treated them to breakfast at a nice restaurant. The following day, I drove my pickup, and my wife drove the car to show them a few sights. At the first tourist spot, no wallets opened up at the admission gate. I paid for them. At the second location, my wife provided cold water, etc., as it was very hot. Then she arranged a nice Thai restaurant for lunch. Everyone was looking hungrily at the fairly expensive menu, and I suggested we share a traditional Thai menu, and my wife ordering. The parents didn't look happy. They're freeloading off you, having you pay for everything, and they're not looking happy? I'd be like, okay, assholes, get your own fucking money out. These are your, his in-laws. People that if he stays with her, you're going to share grandchildren with. Oh, joy. I followed my son to the restaurant and asked what financial arrangements were going on. I expected the parents came to help out, or at least pay their own way. I was informed that they didn't have any money. Fucking freeloaders. Again, Indian brothers out there, let me know if this is considered to be something in the culture. The wife's family and with the new family, and just let me know. But to me, it sounds like fucking freeloading. And your dumbass son is going for this. He says, wow, massive disrespect, both to me and my son who has no working income. Yeah, but he gave her a visa. And we're not done yet. This made me really question the character of Maya, who invites Brooke parents on their honeymoon. A freeloader? I decided not to go on the next few tourist plans after learning the expensive destinations and restaurants on the wish list. I let Maya arrange and pay for her TikTok recommended destinations, all well known as Instagram photo ops. Of course, Maya has to go to TikTok and Instagram, recommended spots to go to. I treated the family to a final breakfast before they left separately and a final really nice restaurant for lunch and Mike and Maya. They funded the taxi and the room and meals for her parents and sister. I paid for a big grocery shopping trip that they could share as they wished. Since they returned to his apartment, I've heard that he's purchased a car, I guess from student loans, and has paid for an education course to advance her job prospects. Smack! She takes. What is he getting out of this? I hope at least she's damn good looking and she's quite adventurous in the sack, but I'm guessing not. Well, I observed that he's blindly and deep in love and will do all the nice guy stuff to keep her happy, of course. From past observations, I'm aware of many Indian people want to bring the extended family to the Western country once citizenship is obtained. Exactly. I also witnessed that absolutely every Thai lady brought there dumped her husband after getting a good citizenship and a passport. So SSM, I'm not personally predicting a good outcome, and if a baby is added to the mix, potential disaster. Well, my friend, yes, this is absolutely a disaster, and it's unfortunately going to get worse unless something's done about this. Now, guys, I just realized I'm reading this thing. My printer didn't print out the last page of his email. So I'm going to have to wing the rest of this to what I remember reading. And in a nutshell, I can't believe I made this mistake after doing this 5.5 years. He also mentioned that his son here one day is going to inherit a lot of land, property, from the mom's side of the family. And guess what? He told what's her name about it and her family. And they are already looking to take advantage of that investment-wise, blah, blah, blah. It goes one thing after another here. And he finally wraps this up asking, what do you think you should do? Is there anything he can do? What can he do? And all that. So that point, that's pretty much the gist of the last page that I stupidly forgot to print out. So anyhow, my response to that and this whole thing is, holy crap, what a shit show. Your son in my opinion, knew darn well what you'd say. That's why he didn't consult you. Absolutely. Again, your son is 32. He's not 22. If he was 22, I gotta be a little more sympathetic here. But 32, come on here. And you've been divorced. It's been a mess. And now he's doing kind of the same stupid shit, except you didn't have internet and things to learn from back then. So what should you do? In my opinion, what I would have you do, if it was me, is I would call your son, not an email, not a text. I would tell him I want to speak to you on the phone, privately, not with her there listening, because you don't want to evidence of this email that he can show her and stir up a lot of shit, because she will. Speak to him on the phone and say what you got to say, and say it in words that you know him best, that you ideally want him to listen and take things in. So if you come out guns blazing, which nobody can blame you, he can just hang up on you and say, F you, Dad. She's my wife. You don't understand. And that's the end of it. So I'd speak to him in ways that will keep him on the phone and listening and all that. And tell him what you think. It's a giant mistake that you're being used, blah, blah, blah. And find out what you can about this thing. I mean, obviously, they haven't been married that long, maybe a year. And find out if it's with the annulment possibility. And if not, the divorce. But then there's a whole sticky factor that he's now financially responsible for and all that. And he needs to talk to a lawyer ASAP. The thing is, I'm sure it's going to go on deaf ears. I'm sure he's probably going to get pissed at you, and you don't know her, Dad, and might even insult you, saying, my marriage isn't going to be like your marriage, and disrespectful crap like that. Because you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you let him go on with this, your boy's going to be hurt, he's 32, it's his own fault. And if you do say something, he's pissed at you and he's not talking to you. And of course, you want to have a relationship with your son. You want to smack the shit out of him, but you love him as your boy. And of course, they have grandkids. He'll make sure you don't see the grandkid. And your fucking ex-wife will see the grandkid. So I pick and choose your words, but you got to say something. At least in my opinion, that's what you got to do. And at that point then, after you say things, and hopefully in a way that he'll actually listen to you and it's amicable, the odds are he's going to stay married to her. At that point, in my opinion, you step back and let him fail. End of story. Because, again, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make him drink it. I mean, as a parent, when he was a boy, and for all you parents out there, you had little kids, how many parents out there told their kids, don't touch the hot stove or you're going to burn your finger? Don't play with matches or you're going to burn your finger or set yourself on fire or set the carpet on fire. Don't play with sharp scissors and knives, you're going to cut yourself. And some kids, even though you tell them, they still have to touch the fucking stove. Psst, ah! And they scream and cry. You're thinking to yourself, I told you, little fucker, not to touch the stove. Well, they had to learn by burning their fingers, and then they learned. Or they're playing with the fucking kitchen knife, and they cut their finger, and they're screaming bloody murder, and blood everywhere, and then they learned. So this could be a situation where he's 32, and he has to get cut and burned in his bank account, amongst many other things. And if it happens, it happens. But he chose not to tell you on purpose. I am convinced of this because he knew what you'd say. So that's what I think. Yeah, you can only do so much, I believe, as a parent, but there's a point then, that's that, He's 32. He should know better. Nope, he doesn't. But the thing is, there are plenty of guys out there that are this fucking stupid when they meet some girl who they're convinced is the one, their soulmate, any crap like that. When it's as obvious as can be to anybody watching and hearing this, that she's using him, her family's using him, all that, and it's only going to get worse. And if it means that he gets raked over the coals, if it means that he racks up all his student loans to pay for her, if it means he gets an inheritance maybe early, some way, somehow, and she gets access to that, and they use it, and he has to learn by going into financial ruin, having his credit destroyed, all this debt, because he wouldn't listen to you, It's a hard lesson, but again, it's back to the old stove thing. The kid didn't listen not to touch the stove and burn his fingers, except big time. So that's what I think. I hope it doesn't come to that. I hope that maybe some way, somehow you can get through to him. But I just don't see that, So I wish you all the best with him. Let me know how it goes. Let me know down the road. Maybe we can have a miracle. We can have a miracle here, and he'll listen to you and get rid of her. But I wouldn't put too much money on that one. So, best of luck, sir, and let me know how it goes. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Please let this guy know, for all you fathers out there that are grandfathers have been through this in some way, your son's doing dumbass shit, and you got to speak, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, something like this. Let this guy know in the comment section what you think. And I know a lot of you guys are going to say your son's a dumbass, and that's okay too, because, let's be honest, he is behaving like a dumbass, as well as any other good, helpful advice to help this guy out. Be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.